Hello, I'm Mrs. Neill, and this is geometry lesson number 21, angle of elevation and angle of depression. Here are our key words we're going to be looking at today: angle of elevation, angle of depression, line of sight, and a horizontal line. We are going to use our trig ratios. Remember, sine, cosine, and tangent. We're going to be solving a few word problems in just a minute, and we'll be using these trig ratios. All right, what we're doing today is using applications of right triangle trigonometry. What we're trying to do is using the angle of elevation and the angle of depression and our trig ratios along with our right triangle to solve some word problems. All right, first of all, you need to have a concept of what a horizontal line is and what a vertical line is, because we're going to be using the horizontal line a lot today. A horizontal line is just kind of like the ground. If you stand on the ground, it's going to be going left to right, isn't it? Think of it as the horizon. When you look out upon the horizon, you look from the left to the right. Now a vertical line, you're going up and down. So if you look up at the sky, you're looking up in a vertical line. All right, let's look at our first definition, and it is angle of elevation. If you do need to, stop the video and write this down and draw the diagram, please. Diagrams help. So an angle of elevation is the angle formed by a horizontal line and a line of sight to a point above the line. So what the angle of elevation is we're finding an angle. And its form, we have to form that angle, right? We have two rays that form that angle. By a horizontal line, so horizontal line goes left and right, and a line of sight up to the object you're looking at. So if I'm on the ground, I'm standing on the ground, and I want to look up at this cloud, I'm creating with my head an angle of elevation. I'm looking up. So think of elevate as up. So the horizontal is my line of sight right here. It can also be the ground. We're going to work one in a minute that's going to be the ground. And when you raise your head, right there, it's the line of sight. So if you're looking up at something, think of angle of elevation. All right, let me show you another example. So if you're a basketball player and you're going to shoot a hoop right here, if you notice, here is your line of sight. And this is your horizontal line. Right there. If you're looking straight ahead and you're looking up at something. Okay, so angle of elevation, think of up. And this right here is my angle. This angle right here. I can draw it small right there. So angle of elevation is formed by the line of sight looking up and a horizontal line looking straight ahead. All right, with that in mind, let's work a couple of problems. These are diagrams. Okay, here's two of them right here. If you need to, stop the video and copy this down. Okay, you're flying a kite, and the kite's up here. This is your line of sight. Do you see that? So I'm going to put line of sight right there. And what is this? It is the horizontal. So I'm going to put H-O-R for horizontal. That's the horizontal line. Now, if I go dot, 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 I can create a nice little right triangle right there. So I know what this is. I want to find out what this is. And I know that I've created an angle of elevation of 32 degrees. Okay, let's read this, please. Remember, the angle of elevation or depression is an angle between the line of sight, which is right here, and the horizontal. This is the horizontal. Do not use the vertical. So we're not using this line right here to create our angle. You're not going to use this angle right there. You're going to use this one down here by the person that's looking up. So how would I work this? This is a really nice right triangle. I can use sine, cosine, or tangent. Look over here. What do we have? Here's my angle. What side is this in relation to this angle? It is an adjacent angle. I'm going to put an A there. And what is this line right here in relation to that angle? That's going to be the hypotenuse. So I have an A and an H. So am I going to use so, ca, or toa? See my A and an H? I'm going to use cosine. So the cosine of the 32-degree angle is x over 100. Now, since I used my angle of elevation, I can solve and find this part right here. And I've used either your calculator for cosine of 32 degrees and get the ratio, or you can look on your trig table and then remember to put it over 1 because you want to cross multiply. That makes it so much easier. So x equals, and let's round it to tenths, 84.8 feet. Okay, let's look at one more example. You're standing right down here. Let's say you're right here, and you're looking at an office building. You're looking at the very top of this office building. So here is your horizontal right here. I'm going to put HOR for horizontal. Where's the line of sight? Is it here? No, you do not use the vertical line. You don't use that. You're going to use this. This is your line of sight. And you notice these two rays right here created that 25-degree angle. That's your angle of elevation. This angle right here is not your angle of elevation. It's this one right here. So using this information, I can use trigonometry and I can find the height of that building. Okay, so with that in mind, what is this side in relation to 25 degrees? It's the adjacent side. I'm going to put a big A right there for adjacent. Okay, what is this in relation to this 25-degree angle? What is this side over here? It is the opposite. So I'm going to put a big O right there. Okay, now I've got O and A. Okay, so I have OA. Am I going to use so, ca, or toa? I have O and an A. O and an A, I'm going to use tangent. So the tangent of 25 degrees is equal to x opposite over 250 adjacent. Alrighty, now on your trig table or either your calculator, go tangent of 25 degrees and find the trig ratio right there. Put it over 1 and then you want to cross multiply. So x equals, and then go 250 times 0.4663. Please round to tenths. And the height of that building is 116.6 feet. Okay, let's go on. Angle of depression. Now depression, when you're depressed, you hang your head down. So when you think of depression, think of down. I'm looking down. So the angle of depression is an angle formed by a horizontal line and a line of sight to a point below the line. Okay, so if I'm up on top of a mountain, let's say this is a mountain range, I'm on the very top of it where my thumb is, and I'm looking down here at a lake or a tree or something. I'm looking down. So this is my line of sight because it's going down, and remember, it's a horizontal line. So if I'm standing here, my horizontal line goes straight left and right, doesn't it? Okay, so there is, my angle of depression is right here. So think of down when you think of angle of depression. Okay, let's look at a picture. Here is a picture. So if I'm in an airplane and I'm looking down at this mountaintop, This right here, this angle is my angle of depression. Okay, it's formed by a line of sight. This is my line of sight. I'm going to just put LOS, line of sight. I'm looking down. I'm sorry, that's not correct. This is my line of sight. Let me do that right. Okay, line of sight. I'm looking down and a horizontal line. And there's my horizontal line right there, looking straight ahead. All right, let's do 2 examples. I've got just 2 more examples to do, and then I'm going to be through. Okay, let's look at this. You've got a diagram. Here's an airplane, and it's looking down at a big sailboat. And if you notice, this is right here. This is the line of sight. And that's the horizontal. And the line of sight and the horizontal create an angle of depression. Because if you're in the airplane looking down, it's depression. So these 2 parts right here created that angle. But I can also find this side over here. And that's what I want to do. Basically, I want to find the altitude of the airplane. How high up is that airplane? So I've got 10 and I've got x. Okay, now let's go over to our trig ratios. In relation to this 32-degree angle, what is 10? Is it an opposite side, an adjacent side, or the hypotenuse? Okay, it's going to be the hypotenuse. I'm going to put a big H right there. And what is this side in relation to the 32-degree angle? It's the side opposite. Put a big O. So now I've got O and H. Which one has O in it? So, ka, or toa. Which one has the O and which one has the H? See, the O and the H are right here. So that's going to be the sine. So the sine of 32 degrees is x over 10. Okay, now get on your trig table or your calculator and find the trig ratio for that. And it's 0.5299. Put it over 1. And I want to cross multiply and I get x equals and cross that way. And then you want to round to tenths. 5.3 miles. Okay, so now let's look at this next example. This looks like a ranger sitting in his tower in a forest. Oh my goodness, look, he's seeing a forest fire. How far is that forest fire away from him so that he can call the authorities in the fire department? So if you notice, where is your line of sight? Your line of sight, if you're up above, you're looking down at the forest fire. This is your line of sight. I'm just going to put a LOS for line of sight. Okay, now where's the horizontal? Remember, the angle of elevation or depression is an angle between a line of sight and the horizontal. Do not use the vertical to create your angle of depression. So this is my horizontal. I'm going to put HO or R. So that creates a 28-degree angle. Okay, now, since we set up our angle of depression, let's solve a problem. I can draw a little line down there, and look, that makes a really nice right triangle. So I want to know if I'm 60 meters above, this is 60 meters above here, how far away is the forest fire? Okay, so now let's go to our trig ratios. In relation to this angle, what side is this? That's an opposite. I'm going to put an O there. And what side is this? In relation to that 28-degree angle. That's the hypotenuse of that right triangle. So I have O again. Okay, so I'm going to use the sine value. The sine of a 28-degree angle is 60 over x. If you notice now, x is on the bottom. It is the denominator. So you're going to have one more little step before you find your final answer to do algebraically. So I found my trig value, or my trig ratio, 0.4695. I'm going to cross multiply here and here, and I get 0.4695. X equals 60. Now I need to divide both sides by 0.4695. So right over here, I did 60 divided by 0.4695. and then get your answer rounded to tenths, 127.8 meters. So what we found is this distance right here was 127.8 meters away. That is our lesson for today. I'm Mrs. Neill. Thank you for listening.